Hello everyone, how are we? Welcome to our tech workshop. Going to give it a couple of minutes to let some more people join. Hi Jesse, Mark, all the Bens. Hi Dean.
Nice to see you too, Jesse. It's been ages.
Hi Christine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is wonderful to have you all on the workshop today. For those that have joined us, I hope that you found these useful to date. We certainly love running them and engaging with you all. They allow us to share some more technical aspects of the product, but also share different members of the team with you guys as well, which is brilliant. What we at? 15:01. Hi, Eric. Right, so before we start, I'll just run through some quick reminders as always. This is a session for you guys. It's for you, so please get involved as much as you can. Ask questions at any point. We're going to do a Q&A at the end, but if something comes up at any point during the session, please just ask it. There is a question box in the bottom right hand corner, and then a panel where you can ask your questions, and I'll keep an eye on that. Or if you want to save them for the Q&A session at the end, please do. We're also going to do a small piece on kind of what's coming, but what we do love to get is feedback from our customers. So it might not be a question that you've got, but it might be a request or feedback on how things currently work, obviously content template related. Please don't hesitate to stick those in the question box as well. And we'll obviously take that on board. So this is number 3 in our Tech Workshop series. So far we've done MegaEdit scripting, and off the back of that we created our MegaEdit documentation and shared it with you guys. We covered in session 2 our Infigo API and webhooks, and then today's session is on CMS Plus content templates. As always, I'm joined by the most talented people. Oh, Erin, I'm just gonna kick you off the stream if that's all right. Sorry, but we will bring you on board if you've got a question to ask. Yeah, I'm joined by the most talented people, not just at Infigo, but generally. And today is no exception. We've got Ricky. Ricky, you may remember from our first workshop on the MegaEdit scripting. It's been with Infigo for 9 years-ish. Has got a history in print, having run a print company in his former life. Started off as a front-end developer and is now our head of professional services and heads up a team of 6. So has a wealth of knowledge, experience. And in his team, part of the 6 that make up the professional services team is young Benjamin. Some of you might remember Ben from his days in our customer support team, but Ben is now one of our best front-end developers and works on building and delivering storefronts for you guys, our customers. And Ben will be running the majority of the demo today. So thank you, Ricky and Ben. The plan for today is to run through a quick hands-on demo of our content templates. So Ben's going to step through creating and using our content templates to build some content out, and then take it a step further and show you how you can create your own content templates. So if that's something that you guys are potentially interested in, stick around for that. And then Ricky is going to give you a sneak peek in some of the advances and updates that we're going to be launching on content templates, either very, very soon or in the not so distant future. And he can show you much of those now, which is really great to see. First, I'm just going to start off with a quick poll, just to get a read of the room. I'm hoping you can see that now. There should be one on your screen, which is how many of you are currently using content templates. If you can't see it, let me know in the chat. But I can see there are a couple of votes coming in now, which is great. So click whichever one is most relevant to you guys, please, so we can get a little understanding of that. So it looks like the majority of you, 75%, are, or even more now. Some sites are using them, content templates, but some are still on the WYSIWYG and HTML editors, so that's interesting. And then a second poll, again, just to understand, now we know how many of you are kind of using them, how confident you are with them, and whether that's a factor in their usage potentially. So let us know how confident you are in being able to use content templates and using them to create the sites and the content that you want to. So one of you not very confident, wish I was more confident. Hopefully today will help you with that. Most of you fairly confident, which is great. Okay, no confidence at all. All right, well, hopefully we can help you. So hopefully today's session will help you. Hopefully you can take away a few key points from the guys, and yeah, ultimately lead you to using them more, being more confident with them, and being able to create that rich content that you can and should be able to do. But I will leave you in the capable hands of Ben. Thank you, Ben. Oh dear.
Who had a perfectly timed cough, which is going to be a recurring theme for the day. I do apologise to everyone. But thank you very much for the lovely introduction, Alex. As always, the money for those kind words will be sent over later today.
Good, good.
Now, let me just, first off, share my screen. So, can you let me know when it's coming through, please? Should be there now.
Ah, Jürgen, you're the not so confident one. Thank you for owning that response, but hopefully today will help you a lot.
Perfect. So, as Alex mentioned, I'm just going to be going through at the beginning, creating a nice post with content templates. So the goal for today is going to be create a blog post with our default existing builder content. And then afterwards, I'll be going through how to make a slightly different version of it, or a slightly different approach to it, rather, using a custom content template dedicated for the purpose. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just go through the standard creation process of creating a blog, which is going to be, then I'm going to convert it to our content template editor. Now, this is what people have seen before. So for blogs, I'm just going to quickly upload our feature image down here, same way, and once again, save. And then now that I have changed the blog over to be using content templates, I'm going to choose our builder. And I'm just going to give it a couple of sections with just some basic stuff, such as at the beginning, I'm going to have a column which has our page title in. I'm going to change the color to be the secondary color, make it a bit bigger. For this section, I want to reduce the padding for it. So I'm going to reduce some of the padding from the top. The same goes for the new section. I'm just going to give this one a name, which could be our title section. And I'm going to give this second section a content section name. Once again, I'll remove the top padding just because I know ahead of time what I want the blog to look like and want it to have a little bit more of a tighter feel than the other. And on that note, I might actually reduce the padding for the first section to be small as well. Now, these are sorts of changes which you'll be used to making if you have used our content templates much before, where it's just playing around with the settings to give the general sort of structure and feel you want to your blog or wherever you're editing this. So I've just got some pre-written content here, which I'm going to paste in. So for the first beginning, we're going to have one column name. I'm going to call this column the intro column because it's going to be the introductory paragraph. Then the second 2-column set is going to be called the main body because that's where the main body is going to go. And on the first column, so the left-hand column, I'm just going to add in a couple of paragraphs because that's the content I want for it. So once again, just copying this from my pre-written content over here. And on the right-hand side, what we're going to want is we're going to want an image, which is going to be just an image of our lovely Moldovan team. I'm going to center align this image just to make it a bit more nice in the page. And below this, I'm going to add... what do I want? Let's add another paragraph just for this lovely bit of italicized text here. So when I save and continue, when we view blog page, assuming I've done everything correctly, we should have a nice banner up here, the date, and a nice, quick and easy blog. Now, that was relatively simple and painless, but there are a couple of factors going into that. The main one being this is an incredibly simple, one of the most simplified versions of what you can do with content templates. It can obviously get a lot more complicated, a lot more quickly, depending on your goal. I also had all the content prepared ahead of time, and this is literally my day job. I do this every single day I'm working, so I spend an awful lot of time with these, so I'm quite familiar and very, very comfortable using our content templates.
Ben, just
Yep.
it's very fast you went through that, and I'm sure that many people are keeping up, but just make sure that everyone can keep up, because you are a whiz.
Okay. So apologies for that.
This is Dean, you're right, this is recorded, so you can go back in your own time.
So the reason I went through that quite quickly was because the main focus of the session is going to be on taking the pre-existing content which is already here. So taking a content template you have already built out and converting it into a consistent template to allow for you to create blogs like this with roughly the same speed I just did, but without having to go through using the builder, because you know exactly what sections you want, you know exactly what columns you want, you know exactly what content's going to go where, and you can make it a lot easier on yourself and your colleagues who are not as experienced in the builder template as you are moving forward. But just to quickly reiterate,
There is no pause button, Jesse, unfortunately, but
so just to quickly sort of give a recap of what I did, just in a slower pace for everyone's benefit. All I've done is I've created 2 sections for the page, the title section, which is quite simply just this part here. And then I've created a content section, which covers this text, left side text here, right side image, and the text beneath the image. The way that's been achieved is by creating inside the title section, we have got a 1 column, which is just going to be a full width column, so that way the page title can take as much space as it needs, as we see here. Then in here, I've used the page title content, which is available here, which will take the text from this blog title here. I then gave it a secondary color and made it large, just to give it that nice styling we see here. And from that point on the content section, I created a 1 column again to have it full width, so it has all the space it needs. Inside that, I did a paragraph and pasted in the pre-written content I have on my Word document on my other screen. I then followed the same logic using a 2-column section for the main body, which is this part down here, where on the left-hand column, which is column 1, I just had 2 paragraphs above and below each other. And then
on the copy-paste piece, Ben, just in the WYSIWYG editor there, is there anything specific you need to do in order for it to maintain that text formatting that you've got there? Where are you pasting it from, for example? So
I can actually show you. I will quickly just drag my Word document onto my screen, and it is quite simply just a Word document with everything already built in it, including links, which our WYSIWYG editor, which is what we use for the paragraphs, will copy over correctly, or should do, I believe. Where was that link? It should be in the first paragraph. Yeah, it will copy the link over as it is from there. Now, I recommend using something when it comes to that copy paste. I recommend using something like Word because that uses the friendliest version of like the WYSIWYG transference. Depending on where you're copying it from, some stuff might be taken out of context, some stuff might be taken with the wrong styling. If you find that is happening to you, for example, here on my Word document, if I show again, the little below image text is actually made italic already. But say you didn't want that, you can just I don't know what the keyboard shortcut for a Mac is, but for Windows, it's Control-Shift-V, and you paste it without any of the rich text formatting or anything, and it's just the text on its own, as if you had typed it out yourself, and that will keep all formatting out for you. However, because we do want the formatting in this case, I'm just going to go for the standard paste shortcut.
Any hints and tips of copy and pasting, Ben? I know you just gave a few then, but are there any things to avoid? Any characters that come through?
It's usually handled quite well. That one I gave is probably the most common one. If you don't want to maintain any of your formatting, like any bold text or links or anything, I would recommend using the pasting without formatting. Or if you don't have that shortcut, just paste it into a notepad document because that tends to keep nothing, and then copy it from there again.
Aaron's also raised the point there, right-clicking. Does that also paste?
So if you notice, if you right-click here, what it does is that will actually bring up the link automatically. So we've overwritten the right-click functionality. So right-click paste without formatting won't work in the case of the WYSIWYG, but keyboard shortcuts do, as we've just seen.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Aaron.
You'd also have other shortcuts as well. Like if you hit enter, it starts a new paragraph. But if you just want to enter a new line within the same paragraph, you can shift enter, and you can see the difference in spacing versus whether I enter or shift enter. So enter has the extra space, shift enter doesn't. So that way, if you want to add a new line or just a line break, but keep the spacing within that paragraph, you can do so with shift enter. Beyond that, there's not really any other sort of tips and tricks for the copying and pasting I can think of. The only characters I would watch out for, actually, no, I can't even think of anything. The only thing is emojis I don't think get copied over very nicely into rich editors, so be careful with those. But beyond that, it's usually handled pretty well.
Thank you, Ben.
One thing that you cannot copy is if you have in your Word document, for example, an image and you select the image as well, that image would not be copied over correctly. The reference will be copied over, but not the image itself.
Yeah, so if you were to do an inline image, you would have to use something like the inline image insert here. But our recommendation is if you want to have an image, we would recommend use the image field. The reason for that is just, especially from a HTML point of view, from just for screen readers and that sort of thing, it's handled a lot more nicely because this has been designed by us to be handled more nicely by screen readers and such. You get the options for, as you can see here, some like image ratio controls. You get the options for advanced classes and so on.
Alt text.
Alt text, exactly, which I was going to do here, where you can just enter the alt text, which is perfect for screen readers. So an example would be a apologies, I cannot type and speak at the same time, but you've got a picture of the Moldovan
You did very well.
standing in the new office.
Dean asked about international character support and special characters. Have you seen any situations where umlauts or anything like that?
I've not encountered any issues with it. We've done some sites with some European characters in it before, and I've not encountered anything. Ricky, can you think of any characters to avoid there?
Not specifically, although it might have issues with the more specific languages like Arabic, Cantonese, those ones where there are specific formatting requirements. Not all formatting might be respected. It very much depends on the specific language's smaller details. Overall, it's fine, and we do have customers who tried it with those languages. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty details, generally there is a lot of manual work to have these working correctly.
Okay. I hope that helped, Dean. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, so that's just sort of, like I said, a rerun through how this page has been set up using our default builder content template, which should be available on is available on all of your storefronts, and you've judged by the poll, a lot of you have already been using, which is good to hear. Alex, were there any other questions on anything
No.
I've seen, or any other points you think worth going over again, or shall I move on to the?
No, I think that's good. As long
conversion?
as the video gets shared and they can watch it in 0.5 speed, I think they're happy for that. That's good.
And just as a side note, we are not covering this as a training on how to use our builder or pre-existing content templates. All
Yeah.
those, we have YouTube videos, and in detail Sam goes through and explains all the capabilities. Our
And
main focus
on
here
that
is
point, yeah. Also on that point, Sam is actually going to do a webinar on content templates from a learning perspective in August, or has done one in August, and so I can share the link for that with you at the end of this, so that you can recap on specifics on that. But there are plenty of material out there for that. Yeah.
And going forward, the session here is going to be focusing on how you can create your own content templates for specific use case scenarios.
So with that in mind, the next couple of steps are going to be a bit more focused on the code side of things, but we're not going to get into it too heavily because a lot of this is still done with our UI. So as Ricky mentioned, we're going to be creating a new content template. So I'm going to go into in the admin. It's under content management content templates. I'm going to open up in a new tab. And in fact, I'm going to open up a little breaker tab because this is going to be the one I built with the builder on this side of the new tab. And I'm going to have all of our new one with the new dedicated content template designed exactly for creating basically in mass this exact blog with this exact style. So this text will always be styled like this in that color. There will be an image here next to 2 paragraphs, a bit of text under the image. All of that is going to be fixed. So you can just hand it over to your colleagues or yourself if you're going to be creating these en masse. And you can easily create dozens of blogs with the exact same styling and consistency.
So just to confirm, Ben, you're going to show the guys now. What you've done is you've created, using our very custom template builder, a series of modular elements, sections, bits and pieces to design up a page how you like it. And now you're going to show them how to create a content template using what you've created there to create a specific, more rigid content template that will be a lot easier to fill in content moving forwards.
Exactly
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when it comes to doing that, you come into the content templates page. You'll see here all of our pre-existing content templates, which are available to everyone. You can tell which ones are made by our default ones by the little star here, and the fact that you cannot edit them. So if we're going to create one we want, I'm going to click Add New in the top right. Now, some of you may have seen this page before. If not, I'll make sure to go through it slowly so you don't have to go at 0.5 speed when you watch the recording. The template I'm going to call it simply blog post because that's what the template's for. I'm going to enable it so it's available to be used. Then in here, you can see you've got the options for HTML markup. We're going to ignore that for the short term. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and go straight into creating the fields. Now, when you're creating a field, all you're doing is defining something within the template the user can interact with. It's plain and simple as that. So if I click Add New Field, for example, the first one that the user is going to be able to interact with is the intro paragraph. Now, some of you may be thinking the first thing that's interacted with is the title, and I understand that thought process. That makes perfect sense. But like we did here, where on the existing blog, we used the page title, which is taken from the main field. Inside the template itself, we're going to automatically take the title from the page, so you don't have to manually choose, okay, I want the page title here. Now, it does take a little bit of control away from the user in terms of if they wanted to have the blog title be one thing and the page title be another. But like Ricky alluded to a moment ago, and Alex as well, the idea for this template is it's meant to be a much more rigid, much more streamlined version process of creating these templates. So it's quicker, easier, and simpler for you to just create them in bulk rather than going through them and selecting all the options, making sure, okay, I want the page title here. It's already going to be there because this template is going to be focused on that layout alone. So with this in mind, our intro paragraph is going to be, from here, you can choose the field type. You can see there's a bunch of them available to us. For the one we want here, it's going to be a WYSIWYG, which is the paragraph one we've been seeing. So if I click here, intro paragraph, I can see we've got a few options here, such as the name and the placeholder name, which will come up when we start doing the code for the template. A few other options, conditional, which you can basically show or hide a field based on the selection from another field. We'll be using that later on, so I'll go into it in more detail when we get there. The width is going to be how wide the field is available in the content template. So if I show an example here, these are width 100. I think would be a good example. Would be if I go into, say, a menu, you can see here, these take up 50% of the available space, whereas this takes up 100%. That's because, as with a lot of HTML systems nowadays, you work on a 12 grid system. So by setting, all that means is basically this available space you see there is split up into 12 horizontal segments. Couldn't think of the right word there. And so if you set something to be of width 6, then it's going to take up 6 of those, which means it's 50% of the screen. Or if you set it to be 12, which is a default value, it's going to take up 100% of the screen, like we see with our classes field here. And what you're doing when you're creating fields is you're basically just creating these for your template. Editor type, basic, medium, full. This determines how many options they get in the WYSIWYG editor. Because we're trying to streamline, keep it simple, we're going to keep it as basic. Description, you can add a description which contains these tooltips here. So I can say something as simple as enter the paragraph text, once again displaying my inability to type and talk at the same time. Here I'm going to check the box label above, because again with these you can see here the label now sits above the field, so you can actually make sure that the field you enter does take up that full 6 or 12 of what you've assigned it, or anything in between around. You can enter a default value. That works well for drop-down items where you have to have a default drop-down item selected, or if you know you're going to have the text say something like a variation upon a bit of text every single time. By entering a default value, that will appear in there as soon as the page is loaded and the template's in use. But for the sake of this paragraph, it doesn't quite make sense because every blog is going to have a different intro, or most of them will. And the last box we see here is mark as secondary option. All that does is it hides the field away into one of these nice little gears based on where you're creating the field. And so that way they only appear in the pop-up menu rather than having to just fill out the page you see here with every single setting you want. It just gives you a much nicer organization. The only other field which I haven't spoken about yet is order. And the reason for that is I want to go through it in a little bit more detail. Just you giving a tip or a trick, which we use ourselves every day we create content templates, is we like to start off with the order of 10. And every time you enter a new section, so to say, for the field group of fields, increment that number by 10. To show what I mean by this, I am going to leave the intro paragraph. And next I'm going to go to is the if we look at our template, what we need, so we've done the intro paragraph, a field for that. Now we're going to need to handle these 2 paragraphs and the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for left paragraph 1. And again, I'm going to go for the WYSIWYG editor. And now that we're in a new section of the template, a new area where we're going to use content from the template, I'm going to increment this to 20. Now, the reason for that is if I change my mind later on, or when I'm creating a template, think actually it makes more sense to reorder this. Right, if I'd left the incrementation to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I would then have to reorder every other template that was created after left paragraph 1. If I wanted to add something in between the intro paragraph and left paragraph 1. Because if I don't think I've explained it, this controls the order in which they appear in the editor. So in the case, this is going to have order to slightly go against what I just said. This would be order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Including the labels. And then if I wanted to add something in between these 2, rather than have to I'll quickly go ahead and create, let me quickly just label above, I'll create left paragraph 2 just to show it off.
That isn't where that content appears on the page, though. We haven't got to that part yet. It's purely the order in the form.
Purely the order in the form. Yeah. The content in the page is done all in the HTML, which we'll get to a bit later. So you can see here, left paragraph 2 has been created, and you can see it's incremented to number 21, which is where I want it. But say if I wanted, for some reason, left paragraph 2 to appear between the intro paragraph and paragraph 1, rather than have to go through and reorder paragraph 2, I can now just change it to 11, which would make it appear between the 2. So it's not something that's mandatory for you to do, incrementing it by 10 every time you enter a new section of where you're giving of a sort of field section, to give it a name. It's just something we have found quite helpful when we create our templates. With that in mind, I've done the left half of the section, so now I'm going to do the right half, which to me feels like another section, so I'm going to increment it by 10 again. However, this time I'm just going to call it the body image and create it of field type image. Once again, increment it by 10 into 30. I'm going to set to label above, and because we want to have it be more friendly to screen readers, we're going to enable the alt text. It doesn't always make sense to have alt text on an image, but that's usually quite a niche scenario where you wouldn't want it. So I'm going to enable it by here. Now, I actually want these two to be next to each other. These, when I say two, I mean the next field over, which is going to be the below image text, would be the best word for that. Now, we've already got the styling for the below image text fixed, so rather than use a WYSIWYG, because it's only ever going to be one short line, I'm going to make it a field type text box. And now I did it quite quickly without mentioning. I set the body image width to 6. I'm going to do the same for below image text, because again, using that 12 grid system I mentioned earlier, what that's going to do is that's going to allow the body image and the below image text to appear next to each other in the content template. Now I'm going to go ahead and save our template here without giving it any HTML for the time being. We'll go to that in a minute. I just want to first, whilst we're still going through the fields, I want to show you how this template is going to look, even though it's not actually going to do anything because there is no HTML for it to work with. If I now go onto the settings tab, you can see here you've got the Infigo area, which is where you can make the page available, the template available to be used rather. So in this context, we're creating it for blog posts, so quite conveniently, there's one for blog posts. So I'm going to click Save and Continue Edit. And now, when I click on blog posts, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into a blog post rather, I'm just going to quickly copy the title because I'm going to create the same blog just with the variation. So for the sake of ease, I'm going to call it template example. Then down here, again, I'm going to just enter 1, 2, 3 on the body. The reason I'm doing that is because you have to have body text when you're creating a blog to begin with. So I'm just going to add 1, 2, 3 temporarily, and I'm going to replace it with the content template. Here, I'm going to upload the same feature image and once again save to make sure that saves. Then I'm going to change body editor down to code mirror editor. And now we'll see we have got content builder and my brand new blog post template, which I've just created. Now, if I click on blog post, you can see here, all of the fields I've just created are here, including the little description I gave for the intro paragraph, just for the sake of convenience for this recording. I didn't enter any for the others, just to help it flow a bit better. But now here, what I can do is I can, as before, copy in all of my content for, if I just quickly look on copy in all of my content for this blog. That's right, we've got the intro paragraph, left paragraph 1, second left paragraph, and then left paragraph 2. Now, I left all these as 12. The reason I did that is because when I say 12, I mean 12 width. The reason I did that is because when it comes to editors like this, where I know there's going to be a lot of text added, I like to have it be as full width as possible because it allows you to actually see what you're editing. Because whilst a lot of people copy and paste in, you can just type it in if you'd want. But if you knew it was only going to be a small snippet of text, such as with below image text, you can also just set the WYSIWYG editor to be 6, for example. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. So in body image, again, I'm going to upload that image of our team. And to save myself having to do that lovely little pause I do every time I try and type and write, I'm just going to quickly copy the alt text from the other existing blog, paste it in there. And the below image text, whilst I'm here, I may as well copy it from here. Infigo is not a secret weapon, and I'm going to paste it in here. And you can see here there is no styling there because it's a text box which does not have them. That's not a problem because we are going to be taking the styling from the HTML rather than having to use the WYSIWYG editor. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save and I'm going to view the blog page. And what I'm expecting to see is just the absolute basics, which is our feature image, our default blog title with its default styling that would appear whether using the code mirror editor, rich text editor, or the content template editor without a page title, because it all loads by default. And the reason, even though I have created my content template and I filled everything out, filled out all of the fields, I have yet to enter any HTML. And this is why we have the placeholder field. The placeholder field is basically going to be how we control where every single one of these fields gets used within our content template. Now, before I go into that, Alex, has there been any other questions asked?
Not yet. No, I think everyone's keeping up. If you're not, let us know.
Okay.
Thank you, Ben.
No worries. I'm going to take silence as a good thing. So, whilst I could...
No one's left yet either, Ben, so that's good.
Oh, well, please don't tell me if they do. I'll take it personally. So, whilst I could, in theory, just start typing in all of my code here, or even if I wanted to, I could just start typing it in a regular code editor, I'm going to use a shortcut. Now, I know what I want my blog to look like. I want my blog to look like this. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with me just taking this code and modifying it to work in a content template. And in fact, that's what we do whenever we're creating content templates, where we know we can build most of it with a builder. We just end up building as you see here. Now, I'm just going to inspect the first element I've ever added in my template, which in this case is the page title, just a quick refresher in the first column. Going to go up through the editor, through the sections, and I'm going to go one above that because in the context of a blog, we have got this lovely content wrapper which surrounds everything that's going to appear in the content. So what I'm going to do is right-click, copy out of HTML, and I'm going to swap back over to the blog post. Before I do that, do anything on the website, I'm going to paste all the code in our editor. Now I'm going to use a lovely little beautify thing to make it a bit easier to read. We don't want the content wrapper at all. We just want our sections, containers, and actual content. So I'm just going to get rid of that div and get rid of the same at the end. Shift tab it, just start off a bit more nicely. And effectively, this is going to be a bulk of our template. And this is actually the easy part to an extent, because we've created the fields, we've got the HTML. Now we're just going to have to sew them together. So the first thing we're going to do is, when you see here in our H1, we've got the page title. I'm going to delete that text and I'm going to use one of our placeholders, which in this case is context blog title. Now, this is something that predates our content templates. Anyone who's been dealing with our system long enough, or using our system long enough, rather, Alex, apologies for using that word. Anyone who's been working in our system long enough will not have seen these template placeholders likely once or twice. You can find them all on any editable content. And they simply just, when the page is loaded, they replace with what they're meant to represent. In this context, the context.blog.title placeholder is going to replace itself with whatever is entered in the blog title. It's the exact same placeholder that is used in our default content templates when you add the page title. So once that's been done, you have got apologies. Once that's been done, we're now going to move on to the actual rest of the page, which in this case is going to be the first one. Is in our column, we've got a paragraph block here. We can see Infigo gives development capabilities. Now, if you want to be double checking you're in the right area, you can just go ahead and read the text from the page. So I know I'm in the right area. So within this div where you can see ICT paragraph, now ICT simply stands for Infigo Content Templates. So whenever you see a class on the markup with ICT, you'll be able to see that that's okay, part of our content templates. So I know ICT paragraph is the wrapping div for the paragraph I used here. So inside that, I can just get rid of absolutely everything. Then come back onto our content template we're building. Intro paragraph, I'm just going to copy that placeholder and paste it in there. And what that's going to do is that is going to paste whatever the user enters in the WYSIWYG into that within that paragraph section. And following that logic, this next section here, so the ICT, you can see ICT left column, that refers to the left column of the 2-column layout. So I know that these paragraphs here are referring to these paragraphs here. So I'm going to just once again delete out the paragraph content inside of it. And now if I hop back over to our content templates, I'm just going to steal once again our placeholders. In this case, left paragraph 1 for the first one, and left paragraph 2 for the one above it, below it rather. And now we've done those paragraphs, I'm going to move on to the image. So you can see here, the image source is just pasted in as it should be by the browser. What we're going to do is we're going to replace it with going to take the body image, going to take the body image placeholder here. Now, when it comes to images, because there are multiple things we can do with them, by that I mean there are multiple parts which are entered, in this case, where are we? The image itself and the alt text, we have got a little bit of thing here where for the source, if before the percentage on the placeholder name, you type .src, that will get the URL for the image itself. So that's actually going to let you see the image. And along the same vein, if I paste in the exact same placeholder, instead of adding .src to the end of it, I add .alt. That's going to be the alt text for the image.
Is that documented anywhere, Ben? Is that on the page anywhere that people know this?
That's a good question. Ricky, do you know if it is?
If not, we have to speak to Sam afterwards.
If not, we might have to speak to Sam afterwards.
No,
that's
I
interesting
don't
to know.
think it's
I
documented.
don't think it is
but
as of yet. No.
So the alt text we added as a follow-up, and the tag works without .src as well, always pulling the source.
Okay, so by default, I pull the
So-
source, but you can specify.
Yeah.
It. Cool.
Okay. So
And
that's
we
just-
made these dots specifically based on the image attributes. So src.src, alt.alt.
Mhm.
So it's easy to remember because it's the same as the default DOMs or markups
Mhm.
attributes.
So those are images. And the last part of our template is the below image text. And this one is just, again, simple text. However, we can see here our paragraph editor added in the EM tag, which is one of the methods for making text italic through when you're building a website. So I'm going to leave that there because I want this text to always be italic because that's the style of the blog. I want to make sure it's consistent. So now I'm going to save. I'm going to copy all of my code and paste it into the markup. Now, you will have some of your more eagle-eyed in the audience may have seen that there was about a second or two before these arrows appeared on some of the lines, namely on any of the expandable divs. When those arrows have appeared, what that means is our system has read the code because there's a bit of a validation going on, and it's basically accepted the code as, well, code. So when you see those arrows, you know you're ready to save. If you don't see the arrows on anything that expands, then what you need to do, quite simply, is click anywhere, like say click around here where my mouse currently is, and then click back in, and that'll trigger it to re-go through it. So if I were to just delete it real quickly, you can see, again, there's about a second before that appears. If you wait, if you either click out and click back in or wait for those arrows to appear, you know you're safe to save and continue. And the only thing what happens if you don't wait that second or if you save it too quickly before that is your code is not going to be saved, and it'll either remain as it was before or it'll remain blank because you've not given it that 1 second for the code to settle in, so to speak. However, as you can see here, because I waited that 1 second or I clicked out and clicked back in to refresh that field, my code has been accepted and the template has been saved. Now, the way I've demonstrated this, including showing you how the page appears without any HTML, is actually a good segue into showing you answering a question, which is what happens if you update a template when it's already in use. Now, when you update the anything on a template that's already in use, if I were to go into here, if I were to save this page now and save and continue, even though the template's updated and I've saved the blog, it's going to change. The reason it changes is because I refreshed my page when I wasn't looking. Whenever you make a change to a content template, if you've got where that content template is in use open in another browser or another browser tab, such as I had it here, I had the content template on my first browser tab, and I had the blog where I'm using the template on the second browser tab, you have to reload the browser tab in order to get the new content template HTML. Same goes for new settings. If you were to add a new field, you won't see it until you refresh, at which point you can save, and then the page will be updated with the new HTML template.
Just to clarify that point, Ben, that's you have to refresh it in order to see any new fields that you enter in, and the save. So you have to refresh for it to adopt any changes you make to your content template, but then you also have to save for it to impact anything in the front end, because until you save it, that doesn't then rewrite the HTML that gets rendered and produced on that page.
Correct. Until you save the location where a content template is being used, the new changes to your content template will not be updated in that location.
For example, if you have 5 or 6 pages where you're using this content template, you make an update and you save one of them, you will have a situation where you've got 4 of them using the old content template and one of them using the new variation of that, until you go and resave them all for them to adopt the new change.
Correct. You don't have to do anything on the other pages where they're used. You simply have to open them up and save it. And that save will just trigger it to use all the new content template features, whether that's HTML or fields.
A small side note here, we do have a small development piece where it will allow you to batch update all locations where a specific content template is used by clicking just one button. Coming shortly.
Not yet.
But-
Right, Ben, that's fantastic. What else? Have you got anything else that you want to run through?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly show off the fact that obviously that's now the exact same module, just been edited in a different way, or not module, the exact same template, edited in a different way. There is something else. There's another field I want to show you. How are we doing on time? I've just seen that.
15 minutes. So we just want to run through some Q&A because...
Sure. In that case, I will very quickly show off the conditions. Do you think it's worth going through those very quick, or do you think that could be saved for a future one?
Yeah, cover them quickly.
Cool. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly speed run this. So apologies, you might have to go through this part at half speed later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new field, and I'm going to call this one feature image location. As you may guess from the name, I'm going to create this drop down. As you may guess from the name, I am moving where I want the feature image to appear. Now I want this to be a very early setting, so I'm going to create that, set that to order 0, so it appears above intro paragraph. I'm going to do label above marker secondary and width of 6. I'm going to give it the name of default. So here we've got a little preview of how you fill out the values for a drop down. The format is name and then value. So in this case, default with a capital D because that's the one the user is going to see. Then default again, comma. I'm going to enter a new line to make it easier for me to read later. And then this one's going to be below title. And you can see here, I'm going to type it in a much more code-friendly way after the colon for below title. Set the default value to default because I don't want any existing uses of this to be changed, only new ones. And it's good to have the default as the default. So that's going to be the default drop-down value. And with that, what I can do is in here, I'm going to copy one of our placeholders down here. Now, for the more tech savvy in here, all this is an if statement. But what I'm actually going to do is on the existing blog, the goal here is to basically add a option for the users to move this image below the title. So in the title section on the old blog, where I'm using this as kind of the foundation of the template I'm building, I'm just going to add a new column. Once again, full column, add an image. And I know I'm going to want this image to be of the 16:9 ratio. I'm going to do that, click OK, save and continue, reload the front page. You can see here it's trying to load an image at 16:9, but because I haven't uploaded one, it's not gone properly. The reason for that is I didn't want to have to write out the HTML. So now I've got in here column 1, so that's the title column. I've now got the HTML for my image. And what I can do is I can now add in the feature. No, don't need to add that in. Apologies. What I now need to do is I need to add in the condition I mentioned earlier, which if I copy this earlier, and as I alluded to a second ago, this is just an if statement. So if the HTML within these two will be added if the condition for it is met, such as I'm going to take the feature image location placeholder here. So placeholder name is now feature image location. True value is going to be below title. So if this is set to below title, then load the HTML from here. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to take out the alt text just temporarily. Just for purposes of this, and I'm going to load in one of our other placeholders, which is the context of the blog featured image URL. What that will do is that will simply load in the URL for the feature image and remove its existing location. So by doing this, I have created a condition where if the user chooses below title for the feature image location, we're going to load in this new HTML, which will use this token to take the feature image from above the title to below it. So once again, I'm going to copy all my code, scroll up here, paste it in, do that little click habit to move it around. And then I'm going to reload my blog. We can see here, because I made the below image text option, made the feature image location secondary. We've now got the gear to use a secondary option. Set that to below title, save and continue, reload. And you can see here, the title now appears above it because I've entered the HTML, because I updated the content template to support that feature. Now, that was going through that one possibly a little bit too quickly, so I do apologize if that's the case. I'm just conscious of time. We want to give you guys as much time as possible to ask questions so we can actually answer anything you can think of.
Thank you, Ben. So Aaron's just wants confirmation on one piece. So he's essentially saying, so we created a template. In fact, Aaron, I'm going to get you on to ask this, and you can speak to the guys yourself. Let's just, you'll get a invitation to join, Aaron.
Whilst Aaron's joining, I can just see Ian, you've just asked the question, can you set templates on a platform level and deploy all storefronts? If you create a content template on the platform level, it should be available across all storefronts. That's correct, right, Ricky? Platform level templates are available everywhere?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
And so you can manage them in that location.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey there.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Do you want to just ask your question or confirmation
Yeah.
to Ben and
So
Ricky?
just to confirm, so if we're building
Mhm.
out a template like this, right? So we want to have this template available that we can add to any storefront.
Mhm.
We've got it created, we've got our code, and then say that we've added it to a storefront, and on that particular storefront, they want to add another section. You know, we go and add that using the content builder. It doesn't affect the template that's in use everywhere unless we make the change at the template level, or does adding something on the storefront level affect the template across any storefronts using that template?
No. So if you're creating the template at storefront level, it'll only affect that. But the question you mentioned actually is a good time to show off one of our other features, which is quite a new feature for us, which we call parent module assignment. So child to parent assignment. So as we've seen here, currently we're using our explicit blog post content template. If I were to create just a call this one example 3, but to give it a quicker option, save and continue edit. So in the context of on one particular storefront, that one particular customer of yours wanted to have something new, which isn't supported by the blog post, what I can do is on that storefront, you would go into the settings for your custom template and make it available as a blog post, but also as a content module. And what you can do here is you can now basically make this available as an option in any of your existing ones. So you could basically make it available as an option for the builder in this.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
And the way you would find that is simply in this list. So what I did was I set to show all of them. You can search builder, but I just am old fashioned. So I use Control F because it's built into my muscle memory at this point. So I can see it's builder sections down here. So I'm going to check that box, save and continue. And now on this example 3.1, if I just save it for the sake of saving it. Now down here, you can see below the standard section, I can now add in our blog post using the exact same template which we've used elsewhere. So that way you can create your templates and use them not only as the entirety of the template, but as part of a builder used elsewhere.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
And just as a side note, our whole builder and everything is built with the same exact tools that we just shown you. So you could potentially create your own builder with your own defaults and your own global rules.
Mm-hmm.
If
So,
you wish
so
to
for
do
just to overview again what you've shown there, Ben, is you've created a content template, and then what you've done also then is, thank you, Aaron, for your time. What you've also done there is you've then made it a module so that you can use it not just in a standalone page like you've been showing for the first part of the demo, but you can actually use it within the builder to create as part of the page, which you did right at the very start to create the HTML to create the new template.
Exactly that. And another use case for that I've seen, and probably the most common time I've used this, is when people want a bespoke header item. So when you're building the header with our default, you've got the 1 column, 2 column, or no column, no drop down options in the header. If you want a custom header item, you can just create that with the content template. And again, using the settings, the content module here, you can make it available in the header. And it would just basically allows you to retroactively, effectively add your own versions, your own templates to our builders on your storefront.
Yeah. Wonderful. Please keep asking your questions. Ricky, whilst we wait for any more, do you want to kind of give a sneak peek as to some of the bits that are coming as well?
Yes,
Thank you, Ben.
I can share my screen. And
While you're waiting to share your screen, Ricky, I'll just ask Ben a couple of... Ben, any sort of version control or anything? Obviously, if you make a change and you save it and then like, oh no, actually, I didn't want to do that. What?
So we don't support version controlling. So when it comes to changes, if you feel like you're making a drastic or a large change to a template, what we recommend doing is just taking a local copy of the HTML. And when it comes to changes for fields, if you accidentally delete a field you spent 10, 20 minutes building, just refresh the page and it will not keep any of your changes. So my recommendation is save little, save often. And that way you can always just, if you make a change you're not happy with, just refresh the page and you'll lose everything you've changed since your last save.
Thank you.
Right. If everybody can see my screen.
Yeah.
One of the new little features to make it easier to find where something is created is our
I love this one.
content overlay. Now, disregard the current looks. It's going to be a lot narrower, a lot neater. This is basically our first test iteration. But what it does is previously, whenever you wanted to edit a section on the homepage, for example, which doesn't have a dedicated page, a dedicated content page in admin, and it's made up of multiple editable content parts within admin, you had to know exactly where these editable contents are and how they build up the page. Now with a flick of a switch, we are going to get an overlay.
A good example of this, Rick, is like now obviously our default storefronts, when you create a storefront out of the box,
Yeah.
they look much better than they used to, but they do have a lot of default content on. So one of the first things people are going to have to do when you create a storefront is probably remove content or amend content that already exists. And so this will help with that.
So I switched the content overlay on, and now we have a dotted red line around every section that has an editable content reference within the backend. So let's say on this section, I want to remove the image, this blue section. I can click on the edit homepage midpage content button. That will take me directly into the admin area where this lives, and I can just remove that section, save it, and reload.
I know, Aaron, right? I've been pushing for this for years. I'm so excited to have this coming up. It's good. Aaron just said it's an awesome update. It's good.
Thank you, Aaron.
But Ricky, this isn't just limited to
No.
editable contents, is it?
No. So one more thing before we move over from the overlay. If we are already used to the structure and we quickly want to jump to any of these, we actually have an HTML dropdown with all the editable contents active on the current page. So instead of having to scroll down to a specific section that I want to amend, like I did previously, because I already used this and I just quickly want to jump to it, I can just say, okay, I want to jump to the home banner. And then amend it and save it. Now, another thing that we did with this is if we, for example, go into a product and look at the overlay, the first part isn't our editable content list. The first part is edit multipart, edit the product itself. So we can directly jump into admin to the product's own page to amend any content or straight to the attributes. And this works for blogs, for categories, for products. Every contextual page will have a button to quickly jump in admin to it.
Yeah, so that one is coming very soon. So what Ricky's showing you now is in our QA environment, and the guys are working as we speak. So we're not too far away from releasing that one for you guys. So lots of excitement.
One thing that we deployed not too long ago, and we didn't make too much of a ruckus around it, but some of you who are using content templates on a daily basis might have seen, there is actually now a duplicate button. So no matter how complex you created a section and its content, free content, 2-column, really complex, if you want to replicate that new section, you now have a duplicate button. And it replicates all the child items within. Meaning very complex sections that you built out, if you have to repeat them, it's as easy as clicking one button. Another little sneak peek, which currently we don't have it deployed to QA, but it's around 70% done, is you are going to have a new button next to the copy, savable sets. You can build out one of these very complex content sections, but let's say you don't want to create a new content template out of it or a simplified one because you actually want to maintain all the options and all the capabilities. You just want to quickly be able to reuse it on different pages. You will have a save button, a save icon, and that will be saved as a set. And that set can be then reloaded in any other location where the same level of content component is being used.
So Ricky, am I right in saying that that can be used, for example, if you've got multiple languages?
Yes.
You can copy the set that you've created for your default language and then replicate that set for all your additional languages you offer, and also potentially like chameleon groups and things like that.
Exactly. But you save these sets, so you can reuse it. And when you paste it and when you load the set, all the content that you've had within is loaded with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
But it's not just using there. You can reuse it in the same location, in a different tab for languages, or in a totally different product, or maybe you want to reuse this section for your blog. It's just a saved set with all the structure, all your config, everything within, to quickly reuse it wherever you need it.
Wonderful. Right. Very conscious of time, guys. Appreciate everyone's busy, so we are a little bit over. I just want to close the session off. I hope you found it all useful, interesting. I've managed to take away small bits that you can potentially use on your Infigo storefronts moving forward. I am just pasting in the link to Sam's webinar that he did on content templates last year. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about the basics. And I'm also going to paste in a sign up link to our next tech workshop, which we're going to be doing in April. And before that, I just want to, if people are still here and willing, allow you to vote on the topic for the next one. So we're putting this in your hands. So if you are still with us and you do see that poll, please let us know. The options that we're putting forward are a storefront build along. So this will be with probably a similar group that you've got today, where we will work through creating a storefront from scratch. We'll probably send out some asset requirements in the build up to it, so that you can build your storefront alongside what we're doing, but with your own branding and assets. Custom pricing scripts, so going into them in a bit more detail technically about what they can and can't do, and then probably coming away with a custom pricing script that you can use at the end of it, or a deep dive into our insights product, so creating custom reports, using them within your Infigo admin, and potentially looking into custom dashboards as well. So let us know which you would most like to see next. And if you are around on April the 4th, then please do join us. There is a sign up link here. Jürgen, you can vote for all three. I think I allowed multiple votes to be used on that, but that won't help us. But if that's fun to do, there's a link to sign up for the next one, which will be on one of those three topics, and we'll be sending out emails about those shortly anyway. Just to round off, thank you, Ben, thank you, Ricky, thank you everyone for joining. You will get sent a recording which you might be able to watch in 0.5 speed at the end, but you'll get access to all of the materials, and we appreciate your time. Hope you've learned a lot from it, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good one. Take care.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone.